Shooterborn in Heaven is one of those missions in Escape from Tarkov that keeps me coming back wipe after wipe. Over the couple thousand hours I've spent in this game, I've found that Shooterborn in Heaven often feels like a Dark Souls boss for me. In many ways, Escape from Tarkov shares a lot of similarities with a Souls-like, and I think that the core concept behind missions in Tarkov can often be viewed in that same light. If you approach Tarkov as if it was something like a Souls-like or like a roguelike, I think you'll begin to enjoy Tarkov a lot more. Even though I have roughly 2,000 hours in PvP Tarkov, my friend group and I have been enjoying PvE more. And missions like Shooterborn in Heaven have actually been a big discussion for our group. I think that right now Shooterborn in Heaven is one of those missions that have gone through a lot of changes recently, and despite this, I still think it's a prime example of how a simple task can teach players a lot for asking so little. Currently, the quests ask you to headshot 5 PMCs on every map except Factory. On the surface, that seems like a very straightforward task, but what it actually teaches you more often is how to modify your weapon for the map you're going to, how to position yourself effectively with a bolt-action rifle, and how to use that bolt-action rifle in situations they're not ideal for. I think that Shooterborn in Heaven is a mission that reveals a lot about your playstyle and your understanding of Tarkov. In the past, Shooterborn in Heaven focused on long-range sniping kills, with a distance requirement attached to each kill. I think that the mission actually had a lot to teach the player back then too. I think it taught players how to read map traffic and to understand the pace of each raid. I think that the current Shooterborn in Heaven actually does a good job at teaching people how to adapt each rifle to the map they're going to complete the mission. I think both iterations still give great map knowledge and still teach players how to deal with positioning. I think that this current iteration actually just does a better job at allowing players to show more style and skill expression. I think that the mission requirement actually just allows people easier access to completing the mission with any gun. I think that this mission really is an example of any gun is usable, anything on a budget will work. I think that because the task has such a simple requirement, it actually means that you're able to complete it in more nuanced situations and not just at long range. I think that's similar to a Souls-like game. Escape from Tarkov will often put you in challenging spots where the build you bring in might not be effective in that specific challenge. I think that Shooterborn in Heaven often requires you to tweak your rifle slightly after every death so that you can improve on your previous attempt. In PvE Tarkov, especially with the new AI changes, these often mirror Souls-like experiences. Fighting AI PMCs can sometimes feel like a mini boss fight. These AI can often appear in small clusters or at long range, and if you miss a shot, it might make the whole fight feel like a brand new experience. You might be rushed down or completely beamed from across the map. PvE Tarkov often teaches the core concepts that Tarkov does a good job in explaining. As players put more time into the game, they'll begin to understand some of these more nuanced mechanics, quickly building themselves up to finding unpredictable lines of sight when fighting the AI, or quickly repositioning to make the fight a lot easier. I think one of the more nuanced mechanics that I learned doing this mission was understanding that when you make a lot of noise, more scavs will come to your location. I think maps like Streets and Interchange, often this will be the case. You're going to make a lot of noise very close to a bunch of scavs, and you're going to get into a much more chaotic fight. When combining these mechanics, Tarkov's learning curve is more similar to a Dark Souls game. For newer players, this can take time to understand these mechanics and apply them. As the AI gets better and more challenging, missions like Shooterborn in Heaven are going to become more and more engaging for players. Because the AI has gotten more complex, oftentimes PMCs will fight and die on these maps before you get to them. In PvE, That'll often make Shooter Born in Heaven feel like one of the missions that you'll slowly begin to struggle with, as it requires more raids to find the PMCs you're looking for. Developing a good strategy for finding these PMCs is more similar to gearing up for a boss fight in Dark Souls. I think being able to make sure that you know and understand each map and where these PMCs are going to be on that map is crucial to making sure you bring the right gun in as well. On maps such as Lighthouse, you're going to encounter things where the PMCs are in the water treatment plant and are fighting with rogues. You'll have to enter into that water treatment plant just so you can get these last couple kills you need. I think that Shooter Born in Heaven gives you examples of some of the most unique experiences you'll get from Tarkov. An example of this in PvE is on Lighthouse. Trying to get into the water treatment plant, you have to kill the rogues to get in. And when you are finding that there are a lot of PMCs in the water treatment plant who are often fighting these rogues as well, you're stuck in a situation where you have a race against time and you have these very complex and difficult fights. And they were probably some of my most fun recently. One of the core concepts to Escape from Tarkov is the fact every raid is going to be a little different. There's a lot of randomness in this game. Like I mentioned earlier, treating Tarkov like a roguelike can often take a lot of the pressure dying has off your shoulders. One of the things I see most new people not take advantage of are on missions that are so repetitive like this, they're not taking advantage of some of the new quality of life features that BSG has added. Taking advantage of things like the mannequins, or making loadouts and saving them so you can buy them outright later. Similar to developing a strategy for a boss fight, I think that taking advantage of all of the systems the game actually gives you is important. I think Tarkov giving you things where you can mod out a weapon and save that loadout, or mod out a preset specifically so you're underweight, or you have this loadout with this ammo, can make all the difference. As you become familiar and comfortable, you'll become more prepared for situations you're thrown into, and make future challenges easier. This learning curve is similar to a Dark Souls boss fight. I think oftentimes some of the hardest things in Tarkov are getting used to the keybinds. I think newer players will often struggle with the sticker shock that learning how to play the game actually is. More often, learning the nuances of the game's controls. Each death in Tarkov will teach you something new, and each success will feel earned. Even in PvE, I feel like the struggle people actually run into, once they do end up solving what they were hung up on, can be so satisfying to see them succeed. Seeing my friend group get better at the game and improve over time has been incredibly satisfying. As features of the game continue to improve, missions like Shooter Born in Heaven will become even more engaging. I think that as Tarkov begins to gain more RPG elements, more people will see how similar they are to roguelikes and Souls-likes. The mechanics, the gameplay, and even the UI all share some of the frustrations found in roguelikes and Souls-likes. I'm actually more surprised this comparison hasn't been made more often. Thank you for checking out my channel. This is actually one of the first video essays I've ever thought of making. This video was going to be a breakdown of Shooter Born in Heaven and how I experienced it this wipe in PvE. I scrapped it. I've loved doing and reading video essays. It's absolutely something that I've grown to enjoy and has become a core concept of who I am. I hope to do more content similar to this in the future. There have been a lot of games that I've wanted to make my first video essay on. There have been a lot of real life experiences that I've wanted to make a video essay on or create some form of content around. I've been really happy learning how to edit and make videos over time. I'm grateful to be in a career where I can use a skill like this and do that for my work as well as do that for a hobby. Once again, thank you for checking out the channel. Thank you for checking out this video. And I hope to see you in the future.